We have right now 60 cases and over 350 exposure sites, and a variant of the virus that is quicker and more contagious than we have ever seen before.
At least 1 in 10 current cases have caught this virus in those casual contact settings.
These are quite different, and it's a much more fleeting contact.
Just when you think this pandemic is over, another scare emerges. It's bad enough that Victoria has another outbreak, but to discover that the variant may be super contagious is almost too much to take. And now it could have spread to New South Wales.
And let me stress that these virulent chains of the virus have been around for a long time, and they're going to continue to be around. We're going to see the virus change. We're going to see it increase its transmissibility. And in New South Wales, we've been aware of this for some time.
Officials are worried about fleeting contact and the short time it's taking between becoming infected and being able to pass it on. They say this so-called generation time is down at 24 to 48 hours. Professor Kantha Subbarao is a world-leading researcher who's worked on the SARS viruses for many years.
What public health officials are concerned about is the interval or the duration in which a transmission occurs from person A to person B. And so that interval was typically taking about 4 days, and now the concern is that it's shortening.
Virologist Professor Greg Dorr thinks it may not be as worrying as it looks. Rather than people being infected more quickly, authorities could just be getting quicker at detecting new cases.
Early on in outbreaks, often the generation time looks short, but it's artificially shortened. And the reason why that's the case is that you're doing lots and lots of testing. We shouldn't sort of be too alarmed by some cases appearing to have relatively short duration transmissions, because I think there's nothing particularly different about this virus compared to some of the other strains that we've been dealing with very effectively.
What's different this time around is the so-called Indian variant, which is creating concern around the world. Whenever and wherever there's a new pandemic wave, new variants spin off. The Victorian virus is known as 617.1, now called the Kappa. The 617 lineage started last year in Maharashtra state in India, and there are 3 main spin-off mutants, 0.1, 0.2 and 0.3. Most is known about 617.2, which is rapidly spreading around the world, including in the UK, where after a fall in cases, they're now seeing a surge. The variant now circulating in Melbourne was also in the UK earlier in the year, but didn't take over.
I think that real-world evidence from the UK is really important in the context of what we're seeing in Australia now.
Authorities say the increased infectiousness of the variant circulating in Melbourne is behind stranger-to-stranger transmission. While that may very well be true, this might not be the first time that there's been spread from fleeting contact. For example, that's been the theory for how the man in the barbecue shops in Sydney caught it distantly from a hotel quarantine leak.
We had examples where the virus was transferred through what we understand were very fleeting meetings or aerosol. We're open to those risks, and I think those risks highlight why it's so important to have people vaccinated.
Victorian health officials are still racing to find the missing links in this outbreak. For example, the family that went to New South Wales and others, including how it got into the community in the first place from the man who was in Adelaide hotel quarantine. There's no question that after last year's second wave debacle, the state's contact tracing system is now working much, much better, although not enough on its own to get on top of this outbreak. So how do we get out of the lockdown this time? Victoria's Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton said today it was zero spread.
If there is no transmission whatsoever, if there are no new exposures, if there are no new cases, that will put us in a really good position to ease substantially.
We have very low levels of vaccine uptake. So we're not at the level where we can be confident we're getting any decent, what we call disease immunity from the vaccine.
But some are questioning whether we'll achieve the goal of herd immunity from vaccination if the variants are resistant.
I think all the evidence is that efficacy against severe disease is incredibly high with all these strains. So I'm less concerned than some others in terms of vaccine efficacy.
Be under no illusion, this is the way it's going to go from now on. More and more high-risk variants from low-income countries which don't have access to vaccines. Our protection this year is mass vaccination as fast as possible. We can't remain a fortress forever.
Something like 75% of the adult population getting covered with a vaccine is a pretty good indicator that you really drive transmission down.
I believe that when the vaccine rollout is complete and we drive down the number of infections around the world, we will see a lower rate of these variants emerging.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.